past education system throughout our school district and thousands of others across the nation has found itself to be lacking in many areas. In an effort to improve Southwestern's success in producing excellent and employable students, the school board has reached out to community members for advice. Recently, on August 2nd, Dr. Rupp hosted a meeting with business leaders from around the Hanover area. She presented to them the changes that have been made in the past few years and what the school board hopes to accomplish in the future. Part of her presentation includes information on flipped classrooms, blended learning, voice and choice, and how to create a customized learning experience. After the presentation, I interviewed the attending business leaders to see what they thought about the direction of Southwestern's education system. How do you feel about flipped classrooms and blended learning?
Flipped classrooms is so cool. To be able to do it that day, I'm one that has to read a paragraph 5 times if it's something that's not sparking my interest. So to be able to go back that night and review what went that day, I think the success rate's gonna be twofold, without a doubt.
Yeah, actually, I really like the idea of the flipped classes and blending in that. You have the ability, if you're in class face to face, a lot of times you do that and you go home and you have a lesson and some homework, things like that you want to work on, and you're unsure of things from earlier that day that maybe you didn't absorb the first time. And I know historically that's been a challenge for my kids, and I think that'd be a great resource for them to be able to go back online later that day, revisit either the whole thing or just certain sections to help them better understand what they were supposed to have learned that day.
I thought that was interesting. Myself, I thought I would need, going through that time period, if I go back in school, that I would need to come to the classroom. Okay, that would be important for me. I would need the structure and I would need the support. I can see that giving options to certain people, because people are different and they learn differently, is very interesting and unique. And I think it needs to be monitored, and the progress needs to be monitored.
I think it's an interesting concept. I think the more that we can get, you can get technology integrated into schools is important, because technology is only going to continue to grow and evolve. So I think it's important for education to try to keep up with that.
How do you feel about the current education system, and do you think the school board is making proper improvements?
Well, the current education system really hasn't changed since I was in school. I think the steps that this school district is making will be probably a good example of what other school districts should be doing. So I think there's going to be a lot of support. I'm going to definitely support it. I'm going to start getting other local employers in the area, in the school district, into the school to see what the school's doing, because I think it's a step in the right direction.
There's pros and cons to the current system. The one thing that I've felt about most recently about the current system that I don't like is it was more teaching to the test, and everybody was focused on these, test scores and not really concerned about how we're teaching our students. And I think what Dr. Rupp's proposing here is sort of flipping that quite a bit. The test scores obviously matter because you have to have accountability, but I think at the end of the day it's more about how does each student learn. We all learn in different ways, and it sounds like they're trying to get each student more engaged and trying to figure out how do they learn best, what methods, what timelines. So I'm hoping that they're going to be very successful.
I think the current education system puts a lot of emphasis on the brighter students. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but I think sometimes it happens at the expense of the BC type students. And I think every kid deserves the opportunities that exist to reach their full potential. And sometimes in education, I don't know that that always happens. I thought that this process here, the way it was explained to me today, provides opportunities for all kids to be involved, giving them a voice, and gives them a chance to excel, to be the best that they can be.
I've been out of school for a long time, but as the one gentleman spoke about, I'm kind of the old school. You had the textbook, you had the test, the answers were in the back type of thing. So, that's kind of my perception of the way education is probably still the same way, but it's nice to see that there's a more progressive way and there's new ways of them looking at education. But it's interesting to see how there's other ways of tailoring education to kids' needs, because I know what kind of student I was, and I can relate my experience versus my wife's experience, which was complete polar opposite. So I think that the customized learning approach is very interesting, and it's hopefully that's something that's available to my girls when they go into the education system.
Do you think the improvements being made will produce more employable learners?
I do. I find that this approach is refreshing. They're constantly looking at what's best for the student learner, okay, and how we can reach every kid. And when you have that at the forefront and trying to reach that as your goal, and that's your primary mission, I think that's a good thing. So yes.
I think, absolutely. So by getting, with the customized learning, I think they're going to reach out to more and more kids, keep them in school, keep them interested in what they're learning and what they want to learn about, which will give them some momentum when they get out of school to be able to carry them into some kind of career path.
It sounds like it, based on some of the industry people we have here. Obviously, in my business, we're hiring everything from physicians and surgeons to housekeeping and dietary. So, it sounds like, what the board has in mind is, Hanover's a very diverse community. There's great industry here, but then we have the health system, manufacturing. So, yeah, it sounds like the board recognizes that. So hopefully what they're trying to do here will better prepare students for whichever direction they want to go.
Yes, as far as the school board, I have not, and I'm going to get more involved with the school board because they have been supportive of our welding program moving into the high school, it was a task, moving industry into a public school. There was a lot of people raising eyebrows and saying you can't do that. The school board took that step and said, okay, let's do it. And it's just exploded. So I feel that the school board is supportive. So that's, my involvement with the school board and starting to get some of these employers in to see what the school board's direction is, because it has to be directed to the community.
After hearing from business leaders, I spoke with Dr. Up to understand her intentions. What was the importance of having business leaders evaluate our education system?
We had this meeting today with business people so that I could explain to them what we're striving to do here, what our vision is, that we want to have self-directed learners, that we want to graduate students who can communicate, who can think, who can problem solve, who are creative. And I wanted to share with them our vision, but I also wanted to share with them some of the amazing things that are already happening in our classrooms, so that I wanted to see if they could be supportive and see if they would also agree with our vision and what we're striving to do here to customize the education for each of our learners.
Why is this shift in education so important, and what direction do you plan to take Southwestern in?
I think our vision is critical with the voice and choice, and to have them be self-directed learners. Once children are vested in their education and are engaged and believe that they can. And the greatest gift that we can give any children, and the children in our district, the greatest gift we can give is have them be self-directed learners, because learning never stops. And if we can give that gift to each child, we know then we have been successful and we have met the challenge, and each child gets what he or she deserves in terms of education and the background they need to be successful in the world of work or the world of academics.
Do you think that community involvement will improve our learners' abilities and the education system?
I think having businesses know what we're doing and having our service organizations be aware of what we're doing, which was what I've done this past year, helps them understand what we're trying to do here. We're not really trying to change education. It's a transformation. And when you change one thing, you change a lot of things. So as we progress on this vision, people are going to hear things that might not resonate with them the way they understand education today. If they're aware of what we're striving to do and to meet our vision, then I think they'll know that, oh, that's part of that movement, and we understand what's going on, and we are supportive, and we know what's happening there because we know it's the right thing to do for the children in our community. we are where we are today because of the work of everybody that's in our district. That's our facilitators, that's our bus drivers, that's our food service people, it's our maintenance people. Understanding, first of all, the growth mindset that you never ever stop learning, and you can, as opposed to having a limited amount of intellectual ability. The growth mindset says we can. So if we all understand the growth mindset and we all work with children, we're going to get there. And we're getting there now because of the work, the phenomenal amount of work, and the openness to change, and the flexibility, and the understanding as to where we're going. And the work that everybody's put into the plans where we're going next is phenomenal. So we'll get there. We'll get there with everybody's help.